Alright, rolling on your side?
Yep.
Rolling on mine, excellent. Happy days.
I was really lucky that I was always surrounded by both the food, the beverage, but also the entertaining side. So my mum loves to cook, loves to put on dinner parties. My dad always had a wine cellar at home, always was interested in whiskey as well as wines. And so, you know, in terms of an industry, that's the perfect connection to be inspired from, because you have, you know, all of those three elements. So you've got the people, the food, the beverage. And so that's where my, I guess, passion started. And so I started learning, and I remember watching Jamie Oliver when I was younger and cooking. And so I really thought that I'd become a chef, and that was pretty convinced that that would happen. And I remember at school, I think it was year 10 when you do your work experience, and I did work experience with Dan Alps out at Strathlin at the time, and that was incredibly exciting, and my first glimpse into that world. And I also worked as a kitchen hand at Davies Grand Central, as many of us do work at Davies over the years. And it was at Davies that I met Stefano De Piri, who had, at that point, had, you know, ranges of condiments and sauces, and he was down in Tassie talking about his products. And I spoke to him and I said, look, I want to become a chef. And he said, that's amazing, don't do it. Go and study first, and then if you want to come back to the industry, then go and do an apprenticeship. And so I thought about it, and I thought, well, how do I combine study and my passion for the industry? And that's when I found ICHM. And for me, you know, doing a business degree in the industry that I love seemed to be a perfect fit. It was an incredible experience. The multicultural aspect of it, you know, people from all over the world, but also a school that was, or that had an extremely proud history, and had taken its roots from Switzerland. And so, you know, that was a great foundation to learn more about the industry at an in-depth level, not only theoretically but practically as well. So it was a great foundation in order to start my career. First place that I went to was South Stradbroke Island, to Coran Cove. And that was a really great place for me to work, because I got to see many different sides of the hospitality industry. And so I worked in a busy buffet restaurant that, you know, did lots of covers. I worked in their fine dining restaurant, which is fantastic. I worked in events. I also got to work in housekeeping. I worked in purchasing. So I got to see a lot of different facets of the industry while I was there. And so that was very beneficial from a learning perspective.
So did you live on site while that was going on?
Yeah, so I lived on the island for nearly 6 months. It was great. It was a lot of fun. So ICHM has a placement team, and so they help place you. But I already had some connections at Coran Cove, and so I spoke to the F&B manager and the HR manager and said I'd love to come in and work, and they said sure, no problem. And so yeah, I did a busy summer period over there, and fortunately, because I was living on site, as many weren't, they required people last minute, so we were able to rely upon the people who were living on the island to fit into different roles. Look, I think it comes down to the individual and what they're passionate about. If you're not passionate about food and wine and beverages and giving people an experience in that way, that's probably not the industry for you. You can teach people knowledge, you can teach people skills, but you can't give them a passion for something. And so I think that regardless of what area, it all comes down to the passion and your willingness to learn about your particular industry. A lot of work that goes into becoming better at your role, especially in food and beverage, requires a lot of time and effort on an individual to go out and learn and grow and develop skills beyond what you can learn at university and also in a workplace. So it's also that desire there. What's great about food and beverage, and one of the reasons why I really love what I do, is that it's such a diverse industry and the role that you play in the food and beverage industry means that no day is going to be the same. They're all different, and you've got the food knowledge and that food experience and dealing with the chefs and finding amazing produce from really cool suppliers. You've got the wine component, you've got the spirits, beers, ciders, you name it. The beverage side of the industry is incredibly diverse as well, and learning about it and knowing the people behind it. I remember Tetsuya came in for dinner, and I know he's got this huge affinity and passion for the hospitality, or Tasmania, the produce and the hospitality industry. And so I said, right, what can I give him that's going to be special? Because, you know, he might not know all the wineries in Tassie, as an example. And there's a beautiful winery run by two amazing people, Bob and Rita Richter, that own the winery called Gracelands. So I said, right, they grow interesting varietals that are unheard of in Tasmania. I'm going to present the bottle, which happened to be their Romanesque, to Tetsuya. So I presented him the bottle and he said, "Oh wow, love Gracelands. Make sure you say hi to Bob and Rita for me." You know, that's the epitome of it. That's just amazing and incredible that somebody has that much passion for it. For me, it's creative, it's challenging. You know, you've got the marketing side, you've got putting menus together, there's the financial side, the business running of an actual business, the people side. There's obviously your team and how to grow, develop, and train them. You've also got the customers that you obviously have to look after and make sure that you're giving them an amazing experience. So it's incredibly diverse. And then, you know, for me here, I went through a full fit out. So I had to project manage, go through design, sourcing. So it was a big undertaking. Well, at the end of the day, restaurants are a business. They're an extremely challenging business. They're incredibly diverse in how they operate. You've got stock, you've got wages, salaries, you've got to try and bring people into your establishment. You've got to market to those people. You've then got to make sure your costs are in line and it's profitable and it works well and people want to come back. And you've got an interesting concept and you can keep people engaged for a long period of time, 5, 10, 15 years. And so you have to continually grow and develop, and you have to push yourself to change and evolve and meet the changes and challenges of the industry. So I think what people don't understand is how in-depth it is running a restaurant. It's an incredible challenge, and people who succeed are amazing business managers. They're amazing people. They're amazing marketers and sometimes graphic designers, and you name it, they can do it. They're very, very talented people. So for me, that comes into putting beverage menus together so that you're curating an experience for somebody. When people are ordering, you're trying to get them to have an experience that they are comfortable with and enjoy, and so that creativity comes with pairing food and wine and different beverages to food, but also marketing plans, also interior design, choosing of crockery, cutlery, glassware. It's all, you know, very creative, and we're trying to visually appeal to people. Well, it's about looking at menus and tasting the food so that you understand those flavour profiles, but it's also understanding the beverages so you understand their flavour profiles and how they interact with each other. Look, it can go as technical as you want to and be able to match things, you know, when you're looking at salt, savoury, you know, sweet, bitter, sour, you know, you can look at all those elements to create perfect matches, but it's also about what does that person want. And I remember somebody telling me a story of how they try to dissuade somebody from eating and drinking a particular match, but my answer was, who are we to tell them what to eat and drink? We can definitely suggest, but if that's something that they like and that's what they enjoy and that's what their palate says to them is enjoyable, then let them do that. we shouldn't be trying to dissuade them not to. But if somebody asks for our recommendations, we do our best to understand how they feel, how they, what sort of day they've had, whether they're hungry or not, whether, I'm not going to recommend, a char-grilled hanger steak to a vegetarian. So, you individually curate an experience. You have to read each person differently, and it's definitely a combination of body language, tone, and how they're interacting in the space as well, and how they're reacting to service and how they're reacting to the menus. So you have to read people. Some people want to engage, and they will. Some people don't want to engage, and that's okay. And so you have to respect that. But it's about taking every cue that you can find in order to give the person the experience that they want. Do they want you to stand at the table for 5 minutes and give them an in-depth rundown of a particular wine, a winery, winemaker, and how that pairs with the food that they've ordered or we're suggesting for them to order? Or do they just want to be left alone? And it's incredibly important for us as a front of house team to be able to recognise those different cues and respect them, so that people can get what they want out of their experience. Look, service is challenging every day. It's not one day, it's just super easy. We're dealing with a room full of people who have specific individual requirements, and everybody works hard for their money, and so they have an expectation that comes with that, regardless of how much or little they spend. And so for us, it's definitely a challenge in order to exceed expectation. It's also about us, again, going back to reading people, reading them so that we can exceed their expectations, regardless of what that might be. Every day is challenging. That's just the nature of the industry, though. I think, as a general rule, people are eating out a lot more, especially in Tasmania, and that part of our food culture has developed. One of the things that I have seen that has changed dramatically is formal fine dining restaurants are becoming fewer and fewer. And what we're seeing now is a sharing style, whether that's Asian, European, African cuisines, American, whatever, or even South American. People are sharing their meals. They want to try different things. They're interested in not just having one large plate in front of them. They want to see different techniques, flavors. They're interested in trying different ingredients. Definitely locally focused. And the notion of food miles and working with small producers is a lot more relevant to diners today. In terms of wine, they're more open to exploring different varietals, different regions, countries. So I think that's probably the biggest focus these days. Definitely sharing. Launceston's a really interesting city, and I was very fortunate enough in my life to both not only work in multiple countries and also travel to them, which meant I got to eat and drink at amazing venues and meet incredibly inspiring people within the industry. And so I wanted to bring a piece of that experience back to Launceston to be able to offer all of the best things that I love about dining, and from my travels and working career, to be able to bring that to Launceston and do something different, and also work with the fantastic local produce that Tasmania has to offer. And I truly believe that we have some of the best produce in the entire country. And so being able to take certain influences, and for us here is very European focused, and to be able to pair that with talented local chefs as well as the produce was really exciting. So I created a concept in my mind as to what I wanted to offer people and how that was going to be structured. I then looked for chefs and spoke to them about their experiences, what they thought of the concept and how they thought they might be able to help me evolve it. And then I left it up to them to start to work with small local producers that they had contacts with and start to develop menus in order to help make my concept a reality. So that was the gist of it. And chefs are chefs. I'm not a chef. I love cooking, I love eating, but I'm not a chef, so I let the professionals do their work. It's a challenging industry, and I think I got up to about 110 hours a week. Just crazy hours, and you do definitely start to burn out. But at the same time, the excitement of service, making people happy and having an amazing team around you is, for me, a feeling that you can't replace, and I wouldn't want to be in any other industry. So for me, it's perfect. The restaurant industry is challenging, and guests, for the most part, have an expectation when they come in for an experience, and you need to be able to deliver that. And if you try and do too much and you're not prepared well enough, it doesn't work. And so that's why when I opened this venue, I was as prepared as I could be, practically. And I wanted to make sure that I had thought of every single little piece from no matter what part we were thinking and talking about, to make sure that people were able to get the experience from the beginning. Of course, it's never perfect, but at the same time though, to be able to be prepared is something that I guess lucky that I learned earlier on in my career and not when I was opening the restaurant. I think you need a strong structure and action plan way forward to be able to execute changes. And if you don't have the team around you, the facilities or produce, whatever else it is, if that's not all there with you, one person driving that isn't going to make it work. You need a team effort. You need all of the processes and systems in place so that it can work from the beginning. And that's why rushing into change and doing it just for the sake of it doesn't work. And also, history is great because you can see things and you can see patterns, and you can then make sensible choices as to how to change, as opposed to just going and changing for the sake of it. For me, it's about trying to understand what they want out of life and what their passions are, where that lies, and how their career can facilitate that. You know, we get one life, and I want to be able to say for myself that at the end of it, I was able to live well by doing what I love and calling that work. And if it's not what you want to do, don't do it. Change, find something that you're really passionate about. Don't just grind day in, day out just because you feel like you have to work. I think life's too short to do that. You really have to love what you do. And that's what will keep you doing this long term.